Hi, I'm JennyTalkington, author of Emotional Reflexology, a Practical Guide, and welcome to this fifth video in this series discussing what's in that book. So before we begin, I must give you all a disclaimer. These videos are intended for reflexologists, either reflexologists in training or qualified reflexologists. As such, unless your training is otherwise, we're not allowed to diagnose, we're not allowed to prescribe, and we're not allowed to make any claims as to the curative properties of reflexology. These videos are not intended to teach reflexology. They're intended to show you what the emotional links are within those reflexes. So let's begin. So how do we know what's going on physically as to opposed to what's going on emotionally? In my experience, there are some emotional keys, and these are different for men and women. For women, it is the thyroid reflex, and for men, it is the spleen. So I'll explain that a little bit further. So if something shows up in the female, on a woman, in the thyroid reflex, everything else that shows up in the other reflexes have probably got emotional links. And with a man, if the spleen has shown up, then the same applies, that in the other reflexes there may be some emotional stuff that we're looking at, and we need to look at the emotional links. It's not to say that in a woman, when you see the thyroid reflex, that there might not be something going on with the metabolism. It might be running too fast or too slow. Or in a man with the spleen showing up, that there may be some infection that the man's fighting, which is one of the functions of the spleen. But it's just that it gives you a clue as to the rest of the treatment, whatever's showing up on that foot or on those feet. For the rest of that treatment, we can look at both physical and emotional sides. So once you've discovered that, or you're on your foot chart, it shows up that either the thyroid has shown up for the woman or the spleen has shown up for the man, we can now move on to the next stages, where if that's shown up and the following, we can maybe look at the emotional links. So now we're going to move on to the adrenals, the little glands above our kidneys that are responsible for our fight and flight response, the stress response. And if both of them are very, very sensitive, then you're looking at a straight stress case, that people are stressing out about everything, and it's just too much. And the best thing you can do is spend some time holding both of the adrenal reflexes very gently and waiting for them to settle down. You'll feel it through your fingers when they go, oh yeah, I can let go now. So that's one way of helping somebody whose adrenals are really, really high or completely nothing. That's even more worrying. When people have got absolutely, you feel like it's a black hole, then those people really do need to take really good care and spare energy for themselves rather than giving it to everybody else. If you feel more energy or more things going on the right reflex, this is somebody who's got quite a lot of physical get up and go, high physical energy levels. If somebody's got a very sensitive left reflex, their to-do list is very high. So if both of them are quite high, not through the roof high, not terribly extreme, but you can feel that they're both a little bit high, it could be that they're just living on the edge of stress. And the physical energy matches what they want to do. More often than not, and I see it very, very often, is that the left reflex, the adrenal reflex, is much more active than the right. And that usually means they have great big long to-do lists and not the physical energy to do it. And again, if you point this out to people, they go, oh yes, I know that. And then it's kind of little things that they can do to lift their physical energy levels so that they're physically able to do that to-do list, or get real with the to-do list. Is everything on that list really that important? And maybe only do 3 things on that list and then stop. So we're now moving on to the kidney and bladder reflexes. Again, if it's on the right hand side, it could be the water balance isn't quite right, they're not drinking enough, or maybe they're drinking too much, or that something's not quite right with the water balance. But if it's showing up on the left hand side, sure, it might be physical, but this is where I was taught that we store fear. And fear is slightly different from anxiety. Anxiety is what you feel in the solar plexus reflex, and fear is what you feel in the kidneys. Anxiety is kind of like, what if this is going to happen? What if that's going to happen? Worry. Whereas fear is an actual message from your body to say, I don't feel safe. I need to be safe. So there's nothing wrong with fear as long as you actually realise that it is trying to keep you safe, and then take the steps to keep yourself safe. So that would be fear, and it can be in the kidneys or in the bladder or in the ureter. It really makes no difference where it shows up. The waterworks equals fear. Can be phobias as well. That concludes this series, this free series of videos on emotional reflexology, a practical guide. I invite you to test these theories out. The best knowledge is acquired through experience, so test these out yourself. If you'd like to find out more, there are 3 ways you can do that. The first is to obviously get a copy of the book, Emotional Reflexology, a Practical Guide, 2nd edition. The second way is to make contact through my website, and we can organise a one-to-one masterclass online. And third way is if you contact your local reflexology training provider, I organise one-day CPD workshops with them. Thanks for watching.